All right, chat. It's been a while. For those who don't know, I'm playing a lot of 6v6 this week. I have a far too early 6v6 tier list idea just to go through all the stuff that I've been seeing this week. And the matchmaking of 6v6 is kind of all over the place because it uses open queue. So some of the games you get like extremely hard, sweaty super lobbies. Sometimes you get like the what in the world is this lobby? So I've seen a little bit of everything. Almost everything. The one thing I'll get there when I get there. But yeah, I figured, why not? Let's do a little 6v6 tier list. Starting off, Doomfist. Doomfist tank actually in 6v6 so far has been not bad. I wouldn't say he's been crazy, but he's definitely been not bad. I've seen some good Doomfist players. I don't know if I want to say take over, but he's still got his like sort of selfish play style, you know, where you can kind of just go and frag out on your own. So I'm going to give him a solid A. You definitely can't just go assassinate supports as easily because you have the second tank that comes back, and I might even bump him down as I get further into this. But I'm gonna start off strong here. I'm gonna start off pretty strong. D.Va. There's gonna be two big winners for 6v6, and one of the two, actually three big winners of 6v6, and one of them is D.Va. D.Va finally has her playstyle back. What is the correct playstyle of D.Va? Basically, where you're playing tank, but you're also playing peel, and so you can help your backline and your front line at the same time. Again, this is a far too early tier list, but I'm gonna give D.Va that S, because D.Va, as long as there's two tanks, is pretty much viable everywhere. Very few places isn't viable. Even though it's not the strongest tank, I'm just happy to see D.Va again. And not in the annoying 3 seconds defense matrix, not in the annoying fly you and explode you version. Hazard actually can be kind of crazy good. I've seen a couple really, really good hazards. That being said, I still want to put him No, this is right. No, this is fine. Okay, I'll explain my reasoning for it. Hazard plays the same way you would kind of play like Winston right now, maybe, where you're kind of like the super hyper aggressive first tank in. Maybe Doom, maybe Winton, maybe Hazard, or even Ball. Maybe actually less Ball. The problem is though, is people aren't used to Hazard in a 6v6 environment, so like you don't really know what to pair with them yet. There's like the more obvious ones, right? Like your D.Va or your Zarya. But because he's still new and people haven't had a chance to figure out where he fits in, there's gonna be a couple other tanks that also fit in that same category. I'd probably say solid A. Junker Queen, I think Junker Queen's actually really good, but just lacks a little bit in comparison to some of the other tanks that are going to be bigger winners. People haven't figured out whether you should use Junker Queen as an off tank or a main tank, quote unquote, yet. Oh god, do I have to explain what main tank and off tank is to the new gen Overwatch players? Okay, I'll do it really quick just in case. Main tank were tanks like Reinhardt, Winston, Orisa, and technically Wrecking Ball. These reasons for these tanks being called main tanks is they were much more tanky, armor, hold space, not really going for big kills, but more of disruptors slash frontliners. Off tanks were your more damage-based tanks that were more supportive. Your Zarya, your D.Va, your Roadhog, your Sigma. Fun fact, fun fact, Sigma was called the main tank by the Overwatch team when he first got released. They thought Sigma was going to be the next main tank. Boy, were they wrong. They do more damage, they're more of a supporting role, right? There's some new tanks, obviously. You have Mauga, Ramattra. I think Ramattra fits into the main tank category. I think Mauga probably will be main tank category. Hazard potentially could be main tank category, but he could actually be both. Doom feels a little more off tank than main tank, but like he doesn't have supporting tools, so like he's almost more like Ball, like if that makes sense. And then Junker Queen's somewhere in the middle as well. So still a little early on where you're gonna use all of these in combos and like synergies, but you can still play them. Mauga. I might gonna regret this one because Mauga's really good in 5v5. Pretty happy to report that like Mauga's you can kind of deal with him right now. Yeah, he's still kind of annoying and I still play against him, but you can throw in the D.Va, You can throw a Rhine in front of him. You can throw a lot of things other than like Ramatra, Sigma in front of him, and you can kind of deal with it. He kind of gets shit on a little bit, and I love to see it. I might even bump him down a tier. The only thing, you know what? Malga. This is 6v6. That guy sucks. That guy. Granted, he also falls into that same category of like, it's a little too early. You know, people probably haven't figured out what the synergies will be yet around it. But you don't get as much value just shooting the other tank the entire time, because the other tank has support, right? Like, if it's a Rhine, you're not, there's a big shield you gotta cut through, and then you have the bubbles, you have Zarya, you have Diva, you have Sigma. If it's Winston Diva, they're probably going over your head. You know what I mean? They're trying to like leave them. You know what I mean? So it's a little bit early, I guess. Orisa so far hasn't been insane in 6v6. Granted, here the reason why is she doesn't have as much sustain until you get the perk for shield, and then you can play like double shield like the old days, but even that's not as powerful anymore. But Orisa definitely can be good. Like it's almost like Junker Queen, where like there are places where you can play Orisa and you can kind of just be annoying, but the dominant 6v6 playstyle so far has actually been hard rush or hard dive. And I'm not gonna lie, I love that. I'm so glad it's not like the stupid, super slow poke comps that have dominated Overwatch since Overwatch 2 has come out pretty much. So Orisa is not bad, not insane. Ramatra, I gotta give the S tier. Ramatra actually is insanely good right now in 6v6. I'm gonna throw another character up there in a second. Let me do it now. I'm gonna throw Rhine. I'm actually gonna throw Rhine in the S tier as well. I think Rhine is really good in 6v6. Having that synergy again with Zarya, having that synergy again with Diva, you can actually run people down and you actually can survive and you can actually play the game. Here's the thing though, Ramatra is kind of better. I'm still gonna put both of them in S, but like if you have a Rhine based team and a Ramatra based team, the Ramatra based team is probably gonna beat the Rhine based team, but you can still play the Rhine based team against like most teams. Even though they're both viable, the Ramatra one is just better. One, it kind of beats the Rhine comps. Two, the sustain is really strong. And also, like I said, hard rushes meta. Like Lucio running at the enemy team. Ramatra benefits in that extremely well. Doesn't do as well on dive maps, but not everything's going to be good on every map. Roadhog. Yeah, Roadhog is going to go down here in the C tier, unfortunately. I bumped into 6 playing some Roadhog. He was making it work. But definitely struggling a little bit. Also, I bumped into Super playing Hog. That was an interesting one. I think he was literally throwing his Hog tosses like mid-game, like measuring how far they go. Very interesting strategies. But I think Hog's a little bit behind in terms of everything else. Hog in 6v6 towards the end of Overwatch 1, which is like super hyper buffed. And so you would play like Sigma Hog and you'd play like off angles and try not to explode. That could return at some point, but at least in the current moment, not that insane. Sigma, I'm gonna throw Sigma in that A tier for 6v6. Very playable, but the problem is though, Rush and Dive are both meta. So like he's not the best pick most of the time, but Sigma's just so insanely good that you can fit him in on some comps. Like you can fit him in with Rhine, you can fit him in with Ramatra. I've actually seen some Ramatra Sigma, which is very odd. Again, not everything's gonna be perfect. This is again a way too early tier list. A way too early 6v6 tier list. This is mostly just from what I've seen and what I've played. Sigma's always a good pick though. Just some of the other synergies is better. Speaking of the other synergies, I gotta give Winton. I gotta give Winton the S. For dive maps, actually let me do this. Let me order them a little better. For the dive maps, Winton Diva, go crazy. Winton Diva, go crazy. Your Gibraltars, your Numbani first, they feel so good. You have that synergy. You also can throw in the Zarya, you can do double bubble. It just feels like home. That's the best way I can put it to you. Things like Brig aren't as scary anymore because you don't have the bash stun. The bash stun not being there only gets the whip shot, so it's like you have to whip shot either the Winston away or the Diva, or the Winston or the Diva away. Can't get both. Or if they get bubbled on the way in, you can't get, and then you get neither. But it's a good time. It's a good time. You can't play it on everywhere, but it's very strong. Ball. I think Ball would be better if it was full open queue. Like if it wasn't max 2 tanks. Because like Ball would be really good against like Goats comps. You know, being able to roll through them. If it was also poke-based meta, like if it was like Sigma Orisa, if it was Sigma Hog, right? Like maybe Ball could probably be a lot better because Ball's better at disruption, running in, running out. Well, actually, no, Ball is definitely better than Orisa. Okay, sorry, let me bump up Ball a tier. You know what, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna bump Doom down a tier, and I'm gonna bump Ball up a tier. I need to flip these two around. But Doom is closer to Orisa where it's valuable and can be played and can be good. Ball actually has a couple maps where he's actually insane on, like Lijiang Tower. But not as good as this top tier. Zarya is gonna be the last to join our S tiers. Zarya goes over here though. I would arguably say is probably the biggest winner in the 5v5, in the 6v6 format. But you know what's funny? You can actually tell the difference between the new gen players and the old gen players because the new gen players play Zarya and they instantly self-bubble and then they explode and they go, what the fuck? This sucks. Zarya's so weak. I can't tell you how many games I had where like someone on the enemy team is hard bitching that Zarya sucks now and Zarya's so bad. And I'm like, dude, you don't know what you're doing. You just hit your bubble the second someone looks at you, but then you're dead, you know? I actually had one little interaction. I'm sure someone will see it in the VOD. I'm sure there'll be a video of it sometime, but it was the game versus Super where we drew. And I think he was walking at me for like 8 seconds with hook, and I just did not bubble. I refused to bubble because I knew it was coming. And then I was like 100 HP, and he finally went for the hook, and I went for the bubble. Like I lived. And because I waited the entire way through, I survived the interaction. But a lot of the Zarya players who aren't used to one bubble just click that thing so fast. And actually, you know what's funny? With Energy Lance, the perk where if you're above 50 damage or 50 energy, you like pierce through, you're getting so much charge off of your other tank that like you save your self bubble for yourself to like survive, and then you bubble your other tank basically on cooldown. You get full charge, take the maximum energy lance, and then you just literally left click through their front line and you get a ton of ult charge and you go crazy. It's so good, but you have to play it correctly. But it feels the way Zarya was supposed to feel. All right, on to DPS. Ashe is pretty decent. I've had some games where some Ashes are insane. I've had some games where the Ashe had to swap instantly. Again, Rush is more meta, Dive is more meta, so like it can work. It's just not what I would tell you is like the best pick. Bastion is weird. Bastion is weird because you absolutely can just run like the blow up their tank comp or blow up their tanks comp, but it's not gonna work everywhere. It's like you run Rush with Bastion and then you blow their tanks up, but if your Bastion misses his shift, then it's GG. So works, just not the best pick. Cass, I'm actually gonna throw on that S tier. First S tier pick. Again, don't forget the two metas right now that are seen to be formed in 6v6 are Rush and Dive. Cass works well versus Dive. Cass works well, very well, in Rush. Running in with the team, good damage, good survivability, right at home. Echo, I'm gonna throw Echo in that A tier. I think Echo is valuable in a lot of places with the Dive comps. Not as good in the Rush comps, but definitely viable in the Dive comps. Echo's just always a solid pick though. I haven't seen as much Echo as I would, or I think you should probably see, but that might change. Genji. This is a tough one. He's definitely good with the dives, but I haven't actually seen a whole ton of Genji now. Think about it. I'm gonna go with my gut. I think I should be probably seeing even more Genji than I have currently seen of him. The buffs made him better. Yeah, the perk changes definitely made him better. I'm gonna say Genji's probably about an A. I think that probably I should be even seeing more of them than I am. Hanzo. Oh, actually, you know what? There might be a bug. People were saying that Torb is bugged in 6v6 and still has his damage on his turret, but I don't know if that's actually true. If that is true, that might explain why you're not seeing as much Genji, because people are still playing Torb. I don't know if that's actually true though. Hanzo. Yeah, Hanzo's not too good. You almost never see the guy. Hell, I might even throw him into D. Yeah, I'm gonna do it. You never even see Hanzo. He's kind of useless. You either play, if it's a sniper map, you play Widow and Sojourn. If it's a dive map, you're playing Tracer. Some teams are playing Echo or Pharah. Venture actually gets a good, decent amount of play. Ashe, Genji. Yeah, I think I don't think I've seen like any. Or hell, I've even seen some Junkrat. I've actually seen a good amount of Junkrat. Junkrat's pretty damn good. Not the best versus dive or into brawl, but he's good. He can do both. But also, if you're a Junkrat player, you're typically a Junkrat connoisseur, and you build ult pretty quick with the double tanks. You get a lot more damage. You're spamming in. It can be pretty damn good. Mei is definitely up there because, of course, Mei with Rush. Mei Rush is actually really, really strong. I will say, though, Mei gets less value in 6v6 than in the 5v5 Rush because that second tank actually helps you survive a lot more. When I was playing some Rhine Rush, I can't tell you how many times I was like, my shield broke. And as my shield broke, I got bubbled. And that was just enough time. Like, just enough time to, like, get through the wall and, like, get around a corner or something and survive. So, Mei's still pretty damn good. The good displacement. You need follow-up, though. It's not as easy of, like, turning your brain off while they're tank, freeze them, ult them, whatever. Pharah is also pretty good. Pharah spams into Brawl pretty well and also survives and plays with Brawl, or sorry, plays with Dive and versus Dive pretty well. So I've actually seen a good amount of Pharah. Reaper. I've seen a good amount of Reaper. I don't know how good he is, though. I don't know if that sounds stupid. I feel like whenever I played against Reaper teams, we won. You might say it should be played more. I don't know. It just didn't do. I just didn't feel like it was that scared of him. Not nearly as scared of him as in 5v5. Like the survivability of your own tank cooldowns and then your partner tank's cooldowns just didn't. It just wasn't that spooky. All right, who is spooky though? Sojourn. Sojourn's still server admin. Sojourn didn't get any nerfs with the mid-season patch because all they changed was perks. Not saying they should have done balance patch stuff, but Sojourn's Sojourn is spooky. Sojourn works with the dive. Sojourn works versus dive. Sojourn works with brawl. Sojourn works against brawl. Sojourn works with poke. Sojourn works versus poke. You could just turn your brain off and play Sojourn every game and you're fine. Soldier. I don't actually think Soldier's that great. I've seen a good amount of them, but I think Sojourn's just a more souped up version. No reason to really play Sojourn or Soldier versus Sojourn. Just play Sojourn and you just win. Sombra. Sombra got some improvements to her perks, and I actually have seen a good amount of her played with Dive and with Brawl. Sombra actually works with Brawl and with Dive in this because there's so much damage that's coming out now that you have the second tank. Just the damage of the lobby is much higher. You don't need as much damage agency out of Sombra, so she actually can kind of go back to her old playstyle of being a little bit more disruptive and a little bit more of like with the backline, with her tanks. Perks also did get buffed, and she also like flows like with those play styles where like you're moving really quick, like you're moving fast with dive, you're moving fast with brawl. So I actually think I'm actually pretty high up on Sombra at the moment. I don't know if it's gonna stay that way, but we'll see. Symmetra. I've only seen Sim like twice in 6v6, and neither time was very scary. The right clicks weren't very scary, and also like the charge up off your tank like isn't nearly as scary because like you just don't have the survivability to stand there in the front anymore. Because it's not just one tank shooting at you, it's two tanks shooting at you then. I always see Sim against Ram. Yeah, Sim against Ram does make a lot of sense, but I don't think it beats it. I think like the Cass comps are better and the Sojourn comps are better, and hell, you can even play Mei or Cass or Pharah, or like all of these are still better. I'm not saying it's impossible. Like this tier isn't supposed to be like a impossible tier. It's just like not. I wouldn't advise it. Torb got some pretty big nerfs. I don't think he's bad though. I think he still works versus dive and stuff like that. But definitely took some significant L's on the perks with his Torb turret. Still very strong though. Am I gonna bump him up a tier? Yeah, I'm gonna bump him up a tier actually. I'm gonna bump him up a tier. I think he's still very, very good. He actually works with the brawl and he works versus dive. Not with the dive, but versus dive. So he's viable in a lot of places. Very, very good still. Tracer's still easily an S. Dive is really strong. Tracer works with the brawl pretty well. Like you don't play it the same style, Like you still play like flank tracer, but your whole team can play Brawl without you. Again, you have an extra player now. With the extra player, with the extra tank, you have more survivability and more damage. So like you don't really miss the frontline damage as much in the 6v6 as you would with 5v5 with like one person on the flank, one person on the end, like going in. So it works really well. Venture. I might be high as balls, but I'm pretty high on Venture in 6v6. I think Venture works pretty damn good. Good disruption. Venture's perk of being able to like have super fast cooldowns during ult actually makes Venture scary as shit in 6v6 because you can blow people up. It's kind of awesome. So I'm high up on Venture. I think Venture's pretty damn good. Widow. Widow viable on certain places. Your Junker Towns, your Havanas, just like Widow always is, but not like a destroying the game lobby threat unless they have a server admin Widow and nobody can kill them. Then that's just like a GG, but that's average Widow behavior. All right, on to supports. Supports are very interesting in 6v6. If I had a complaint about 6v6, I think that support damage is still too high. It's leftover residual high from 5v5. I think that's where the damage creep has been over the years, is in this category. Not saying you should take away any like their ability to do it. It's just kind of get built up over time. Part of the explodey factor that people probably are feeling at the moment while they're readjusting to the format is most likely caused by this group. First up, Ana, easy S, easy S. Super viable in the dive, not as viable in Brawl. The double nano is just gross. It's actually just gross. It's like a defensive ult and an offensive ult. Almost always going to be viable. Not the best pick everywhere, but at least in the dive will always be the best support you can pick. BAP is also going to go in that S tier. Brawl, like your Rein or Ramattra, D.Va, and Zarya, whoever one, like Rein or Ramattra, and then Zarya, probably. But you can also slot in D.Va, and then you throw in the cast, Sojourn, everyone's playing in a super group. Ramattra, this is where BAP's bread and butter is, playing with the window. If you played Overwatch 1, you understand BAP was insane in Overwatch 1. He dominated the game the entire back half after his release. AoE damage, or AoE heals, was insanely strong. His lamp actually gets even more value in 6v6 than it did in 5v5. Not good in dive, insanely good in 6v6. Brig. Brig is gonna get a solid A. Good versus dive and with dive on those dive maps, like your Gibraltar, your Nabani first, right? But not a pick everywhere character, and absolutely gets bowled over. Not as strong as Overwatch 1 Brig versus dive. And definitely not strong in versus dive in the same way it is in 5v5. Just does not have the power to 1v2 tanks, dive tanks like she used to. Illari. Illari, I'm probably gonna go into solid C. Illari's not bad, just doesn't really have a place. Illari's more of a poke character, poke support. Poke isn't really getting played that much unless on control. And even on control, it's not like there's better options. So like nothing against Illari, just so far in the current 6v6 stuff that I've seen, just doesn't fit. Doesn't fit. I think Juno's really good. I don't think as good as Ana and BAP though. I think Juno is a great replacement if you don't have a Lucio on your team. Like if you're playing Ana Juno or BAP Juno, if you don't have a Lucio, sure. That's a great fit. But you're already at a disadvantage then at that point. You should just have the Lucio. Just play the Lucio BAP. Just play the Lucio Ana. But not bad. Just not, like, Juno's not like insane versus dive. Not very great at versus dive. Good with Brawl. Good versus Brawl. Not the best character you can pick though with those and verse those. Right. So, all right, next, Kiri. Kiri is pretty good. I would say similar to almost Juno, maybe even better than Juno, especially with the dive and versus dive. Not as good with Brawl though. Which one actually? You know what? I think they're both the same actually. Maybe they're both the same. Very good, very good. Not the best everywhere pick. That's the best way I could put it. Lifeweaver. Oh man, I hate to be that guy. There's just almost no reason to pick him. Yeah, he does an increased healing. We've done this song and dance before. You know what I mean? Like, if anything, he might be better in 6v6 long term. You know, doing more healing, and you could pair it with like a Zen for more damage or something. I don't know. Sorry. It is what it is, right? Lucio. Arguably best support. You can play Lucio anywhere. Play him in dive. Play him versus dive. Play him with brawl. Play him versus brawl. Probably wouldn't play him with poke, but poke's not that insane. But Lucio, easy. Easy S. Easy S. Easy, easy, easy S. Mercy. Mercy's probably going to be in that Illari tier. Mercy can be good with the Sojourn comps, like a really good Sojourn, a really good Cass. Well, yeah, actually, she does provide a little bit better. Mercy Sojourn is busted as what do you mean? So one specific instance, because she enables the best character one of the best characters in the game. That doesn't mean it's all this character. It's mostly this one with a little bit of extra boost. But overall, though, having Mercy is a little bit not as viable, because especially you're also severely underestimating how powerful dive tanks are versus a Mercy Sojourn. Like Winston D.Va, if you have an actual real Winston D.Va that know what they're doing, the off-angle Sojourn is going to get cooked. You run them down. Now, if you're playing Brawl or you're playing one of those games where everyone stands there and doesn't do anything, yeah, of course it goes crazy. You could play Sojourn with BAP, you could play Sojourn with Lucio, and it's probably better. Overall for your team. Not saying Mercy Sojourn can't take over the lobby, but it is more counterable than it is in 5v5. Much more counterable. Moira. This might shock you. This might shock you. You're underestimating it. You're underestimating it. Insane versus dive. Good with dive. Insane with brawl. Good versus brawl. You never die. You build ult extremely quickly. You're pumping healing. You're playing as a group. Versus dive. Survivability tool. Biggest one is that fade. You're building ult extremely quickly. And you're typically playing it with Lucio comp. Lucio Moira at the end of Overwatch 1. Hell, even into Overwatch 2, early Overwatch 2, was extremely broken. Just a lot of you guys haven't were never around those days. Think of it this way. Think of it as you're playing hyper mobile to the point where BAP can get overwhelmed. BAP can get overwhelmed. Ana absolutely can get overwhelmed. Moira is like the middle ground between the two. You're not doing as much like burst healing as say BAP with AoE. You're not doing nearly as much burst as Ana, but that sustained healing and that sustained survivability are insane. Actually insane. I promise you, you're underestimating it. And then last but not least, we have Zen. I don't think he's bad. I don't think he's bad. But again, Zen doesn't really thrive very well in Brawl versus Brawl. He can do pretty well in Dive, though. Dive with Zen actually can work. I just think that Lucio's better, like, by far right now. But I could see this absolutely going up with time. I absolutely could see this going up with time. For sure. Like, this is more of a... is typically dive, and I would most people would rather play Brig Ana than say Ana Zen, right? Or Kiri Zen. So it's like you're not gonna pair Zen with Brig very often, but this is like a better pick with the dive than you pair, and then you like compare this, right? Like Ana's like arguably the best support to run with dive, and then you have to keep Ana alive, so you're gonna pick Brig. You could go triple support. You could go triple support, Ana, Brig, Zen. And then I might give you this. I might give you it. But so far, we haven't seen a ton of triple support Zen yet. Remember, this is a far too early tier list. So, you know, it is what it is. We'll see how it goes. Anyways, though, there you go. There's your far too early 6v6 Overwatch 2 comp tier list. Early thoughts on Freya? Freya's really cool. Freya's not in comp though, but it's just a playtest, but Freya's really cool. There you go.